What's going on, survivors? How to chop down a tree without chopping your leg off, coming up. Well, welcome to my office. First thing that you want to do before you start is stretch. Yep, okay, now we're ready. First and foremost, what we want to think about is safety. And safety is number one, as always. So we want to look at the tree itself. We want to think about what axe we're using and which way it's going to fall. And that's what we're going to go over here. So the first thing that we want to look at, is this tree in a safe area for me to cut down even in the first place? Is there overhanging branches? Are there overhanging logs over the top of this pushing against this tree that could fall on me? What does the top look like? Is the top rotten? Does the top have parts that are broken off? Does it look like it's kind of leaning over towards me? And what could happen there is basically the top can break off, and it's called a widowmaker, and come down and land on top of your head. Then we want to determine which way it's going to fall. A good idea is to use your axe, hold it towards the tip, the bottom of the handle down here. Let the weight of the head act as a plumb bob. So pretty close to a straight up and down line. Don't pinch your fingers one way or another and try and make it turn, but hold it up to the tree and then go from one angle and then turn and go from another angle 90 degrees to it and see which way it's moving. So I was able to borrow a couple axes from some buddies. This one from The Rock, this one from a guy named Mine, short for Miner. And what these are, this one is typically known as a boy's axe, right around a 2.5 pound head. This one's made by Council Tool, about 26-27 inch handle. This one is a Snow and Neely Hudson Bay style and about a 24 inch handle. So different considerations there with the length of your handle. Now, a guy that is really into his axes and a guy that really likes to take care of his axes usually doesn't let other guys borrow their axe. Because why? Well, very good. They could chop it right into a rock and put a big ding in your axe that you've spent a lot of time sharpening. And that's not good. So basically, what you want to do, be careful with someone else's axe. You want to determine that your area is safe. What you do is you look all around you. It's called the blood bubble. Go in a full circle around. No branches above. Nothing that could catch the top of my axe. Nothing down below. We want to clear out our area down below. Clear that out. Clear out everything down on the bottom. Make sure that's not going to catch your axe blade as you're chopping into things. A problem that can happen are trees in the area. If there's branches that are close by, it could catch on your bit and then deflect your swing as you're going. Next thing you want to look into is take the axe sheath off before you hit something, because if you do this real hard, it's going to slam that axe sheath into the bit and then cut it a bunch. So smack it like you mean it. And then look up right away. You want to make sure that top isn't going to break off and come towards you. Give it a few good hits. Shake it a bit. That really gets the top wiggling. But once you start going to town, you don't want that top to fall off on you. Just like you're sawing with the chainsaw, you want to do the same thing. Check out that other video on how to cut down a tree if you're curious about that. So, tree seems pretty solid. Then from there, cut into it. make sure it's dead even in the first place. Make sure that the bark is separated from the inside wood of the tree. So the cambium layer, the part that actually is growing, is all dried out and it's separating, and the bark basically just peels off. Chop into it, check to make sure that this tree isn't rotten. Everything looks good and solid inside there. Hit it again, look up. Feel it on the inside, kiss it. Your lips can detect a little bit more moisture easier than your hand. So if you put your lips on it, hopefully no one sees you kissing the tree as you're out there. That's okay, just tell them what you're doing. So check on the inside. It cracks out nicely. I'd say this tree is dead. That's a good candidate to cut down. The tree that we want to cut down is going this way. It's leaning predominantly this way. So we're going to cut a notch in the front of that to make it want to close on that and hinge towards the direction we want it to fall. I'm going to leave the bark on this one right here just to show you guys, but it can be a good idea to take the bark off as well. Think about the diameter of the tree. So approximately the diameter of the tree, that can be a good indicator about how wide you want the notch. So you can start making sure that you're in a good safe position, a good athletic stance, you know, just ready to go. But the thing that you don't want to happen is it to glance off and then go down towards your foot. So you have a little bit closer to the ground right here, and so if it does glance off, it's going to go down into the ground instead of your foot. Generally, for when you're using a chainsaw or even an axe with a big tree, it can be a good idea to go at waist level, but it's more dangerous if it glances off and it go towards your knee. I've chopped my shin right here. It doesn't feel good. So, and that happened when I was going waist level with a brand new axe. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start, find my general spot, make sure if my first chop, I'm looking up first couple chops, and I'm going to go in. I'm going to try and be accurate with it. You're starting towards the top of the notch, and then you come down towards the bottom. It can help with larger trees to hit the front and back part of your notch. Try and keep it nice and smooth. You can see the angle of the notch right there, where it's about 90 degrees, but it's cambered a bit, it's tilted a bit. So that's okay if you imagine it closing right there, halfway down. It's not going to touch itself and break apart as it's falling down towards the ground. Generally, if it's a bigger tree, only go in about a third to half the way. But if it's smaller than this, smaller like this, then come from the back here, just a few strokes, and don't cut all the way through and then let it fall. So the notch is in the front, we're going to make a few chops in the back, and then maybe give a little push on the way down, all the while looking up to make sure that the top doesn't fall on us. And then look around, make sure no one's in the area. Then yell falling right before it starts to go down. Falling! Move out of the way. Move out of the way. Woo! Oh baby! Now you don't want to start chopping it on here because it gets springy a lot of times going down there. So it's a good idea to chop this off, get it out of the way. Now we're safe. Remember, start with looking around the area to make sure that it's going to be safe to cut the tree down. Look up, use your axe as the plumb bob, see which way that it's leaning. Then the way that you want it to fall, make your notch there. Anywhere from a half to a third of the way in, sometimes a little bit more depending on the tree. If it's a big tree, you want to leave more holding wood because there's more of a chance of it going back and forth and down. A smaller tree, you don't need much of a notch. And if it's even a smaller tree, right around soda can size, you don't need to do much of a notch at all. Cut a small little notch right on the back side. Sometimes just chop all the way through. Just be mindful of where your axe is heading on through the wood from there. In the next video, we'll bolt up this wood that we cut down right here into manageable pieces, and I'll show you how to split it up. So keep surviving.